So, hey everyone, welcome to our newest episode on the Living Life Naturally podcast. And we're going to talk about some ideas about weight loss and different ways that during menopause you can have better results with your weight loss because we know how difficult that is at this time in our lives to get the weight off. We look at ourselves and we think, what happened to me almost overnight? And you see this belly and you think, oh my gosh, what happened and what can I do about it? So today we have Kayla Johnson with us. She is a fitness expert, an entrepreneur, and a women's wellness advocate. And she has over 30 years of experience in the fitness industry. And Kayla is a dedicated health and wellness professional, entrepreneur, and coach committed to empowering individuals, especially women, to achieve their fitness goals and embrace a balanced and sustainable lifestyle. So, as the founder and creator of multiple fitness ventures, Kayla's deeply passionate about helping her clients develop consistency and discipline in their wellness journeys. And she specializes in designing dynamic, evolving workout programs that foster long-term success while promoting a positive relationship with food and movement. She's a firm advocate for breaking free from restrictive diet culture. Amen to that. Educating clients on how to properly fuel their bodies without deprivation. She is the co-owner of Star Cycle Santa Barbara, an award-winning national franchise, and has been recognized twice as a Lululemon Athletica ambassador for her leadership in fitness communities. And her mission is to guide women through the unique challenges of midlife, helping them embrace their changing bodies with confidence and strength. So, believing in a life balance, Kayla supports her clients in achieving their desired results without extreme dieting or restriction. And her approach is rooted in sustainability, empowerment, and a deep passion for others and for helping others lead their healthiest, most fulfilling life. And really, Kayla, that's what it's all about, isn't it?
Yeah.
So thank you so much for joining us today. And I
Yeah, thank you.
understand you are joining us from Santa Barbara then.
I am joining you from Santa Barbara, California. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so happy to have you here. So I know there's a lot of what you do that I do, and I just so love the healthy lifestyle portion because I think when we get to midlife, um, we tend to throw that out the window because all of a sudden we're panicking over what happened to our bodies.
Hmm.
And so I want to ask you what inspired you to specialize in helping women through perimenopause and menopause.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to talk about that. I'll tell you the long version in a second, but the short version is I really struggled. And in my opinion, there's never been an evening of the playing field like midlife. And so my journey in fitness started very young. I danced my whole life. And then from
Oh.
there, when I was 18, I got into group fitness. And I really got into group fitness because I needed a gym membership and I couldn't afford one. So I was the girl teaching step aerobics back in the early 90s. It was dancey, back in the day, all of that was such an easy lead in from having a dance background. So there the journey began. I fell in love with it. And I accidentally ended up in the weight room with the cute boys.
Mm.
And they definitely were the reason why I was there, but I stayed because I loved how strong I felt. But never did I ever think that I was starting to build that retirement account, right, for 80-year-old Kayla. It just never even occurred to me. I got really lucky that I ended up there because I've literally never left. So I built an entire business around fitness my whole life. 18 years ago, I landed in Santa Barbara, found myself here as a single mom of three small kids,
Wow.
and made a decision. It was kind of a fork in the road to really take my fitness business to the next level. So Kayla Johnson Fitness was born 18 years ago. As you mentioned, I'm a serial entrepreneur of sorts. I love group fitness. So a lot of what I've done has been surrounded around group fitness. Don't you love the community that is built around group fitness. It's so special. So I've done that for, gosh, I'm still doing that. I love it. I was teaching a 6 a.m. spin class this morning with all those crazy
Wow.
people. Yeah, they're so lovely. So I also, was a private trainer, and then COVID happened. And that was, for all of us, I think everybody can relate. That was a flip-flop of sorts. It was stopped us in our tracks. It was an opportunity to reframe, reset. Some people really used it for good. We ate and drank in our house. So there was some negatives and positives, but I'm really lucky there was a silver lining because at the time I was going through perimenopause and I had no idea. And when the world is upside down, that's a real mask for what's going on with you personally. And I was really struggling, but I had no idea because I was just trying to survive in a place that really wanted me to shut down and I wasn't willing to. I was dragging my spin bikes in and out of the studio multiple times a day. I was fighting with the district attorney, fighting with neighbors because our music was too loud. I mean, I was really struggling. And my husband and I have 6 kids between the two of us. And so we circled the wagons like most people did, right? University shut down, everything shut down. So we had to bring everybody home. The first 2 weeks were honestly kind of fun. And then I was like, I can't film another TikTok. Like when is this going to end? Because this is crazy. And it just went on and on and on and on. And again, I'm battling not sleeping, right? Not feeling, not, well, gaining weight, just not feeling good in my body, but I'm blaming it on what's happening in the world. So for me, it was a very long journey. A couple of years ago, the weight gain got even worse. And that was the part for me that was I was really struggling. So to take you back for a moment, I don't know how it was for you, but nobody was talking about perimenopause in my house. In fact, when I was discovering during COVID or just trying to figure out what was happening with me, embarrassingly enough, I don't know that I could have defined the word perimenopause. I really just didn't have any understanding of even what the word meant. So I felt very, very lost. And again, nobody was talking to me about perimenopause or even things to look for. And so I really had to discover it for myself. Well, being in the fitness industry and just being who I am as a person, I'm the one that people come to. I'm kind of like when you walk into a party, I'm like the fitness girl. And so I get either the confessions or I get the questions, right? And so that's always been my persona. Well, because of that, I didn't feel comfortable asking for help. And I wasn't even reaching out to girlfriends to say, hey, like, are these things happening to you? And then, as most of us know, and maybe those of us who don't, I don't know if you're not there yet, a lot of our physicians aren't equipped
Right.
to care for us,
Yeah.
right? And it's really not their fault. They were not schooled. This was not part of their education in medical school to care for us, kind of stopped after childbearing. So unless they went back to school and got accredited or got some type of further education, you're stopped there too. So it was really, if I'm being honest, a very dark time for me because my body was changing and I felt alone. I just didn't know who to talk to. So I did what I do and I just started researching. And I found some pretty amazing mentors just through research and got some things figured out for myself. That's really where this entire thing started for me. At the time, so going back to kind of beginning of COVID, I was training almost all men.
Mm.
So about 80% of my book of business was men. And I had this overwhelming feeling. And by the way, I can articulate this now beautifully. Back then, I was like, I didn't know which end was up. Okay. So, like, it wasn't this crystal clear. This is now 5 years later, looking back in the rearview mirror. It all kind of looks the way it does now. But at the time, all I can say for what it felt like then was it was a overwhelming feeling. I'm super intuitive. So I listened to that of you've just spent 28 years getting ready for this moment. Because what I knew, and this is when I was very lost, by the way, but what I knew about me is I'm tenacious and I will figure it out. Like I will claw my way there. And so I knew that I would figure it out. And then I thought, this is going to sound a bit egotistical, but it is what it is. I'm really smart. And if I'm lost, everyone's lost. if I can't see my way through this, and there are thousands and thousands and thousands of women who need support, and this is where I need to be. It was just clear as day. I didn't know what it was going to look like. I didn't know how I was going to get there. So where I started was with my spin studio. I had access to all of these women. And I just started doing market research and beta testing and just getting my hands on as many women as I possibly could. And the same things, as you know, just came up over and it was just like a rinse and repeat conversation. I could not believe it. I didn't realize that everyone was going through the same version of something, right? It wasn't exactly identical. We're not cookie cutters. So, it was different for everybody, but it was some version of the same thing. And I thought to myself, holy cow, I have got to help. So that's where my 90-day accountability program was born. What I also realized in the process of all of this is how wicked the diet culture has been.
Yes.
And we're all I'm going to use the word victim. That sounds dramatic, but whatever. Okay, let's just go with it. We're all a victim of that in some way, shape, or form. Even if you don't think that you are, it's like through osmosis. If you were brought up in the 80s and 90s, it's in there. I mean, was brought up in a household where everybody was dieting, every diet under the sun. I used to steal my mom's diet candy. Do you remember the diet candy back in the day? It
Yes.
was actually quite delicious, by the way. I'm sure that I had major gastro complications from eating all of that diet candy. Who knows what that stuff was made of? But like, I was brought up in a house where that's what everybody was doing was dieting. And of course, I followed suit. I was a dancer my whole life. Can you think of a more toxic place to be as a child, right? Sorry, ballerinas. I hope it's better, but back in the 80s, it was not great. So just this emphasis on whatever it takes to be thin, right? Whatever it takes to be thin. And I think that history of all of the dieting that we did has just gotten us to such an unfortunate
Yeah.
place in midlife,
Yes.
right? So for me, when I'm working with women, it's really about bringing it back to basics and like unwinding, which is a lot of mindset work, honestly, but
Yes.
winding all of those stories that they've been told and all of those stories they've been telling themselves. I always tell women, when you're with me, this is your last stop. This is it. Because what I'm going to teach you is sustainability. And we're still living in a world. I mean, I pay attention to all things happening in social media. There is so much nonsense happening out there still. I'm like, seriously, who is counting calories? If you are listening to Lynn and I right now, please stop counting calories. I mean, I am telling you, that is a recipe for disaster. But
Yes.
we're still doing that. We're still getting on a bathroom scale. I talk to probably 50 or 60 women a week. And so I'm speaking from experience, right? I've helped over 600 women in the past 5 years, but I'm speaking from experience with what I'm still hearing. And there is so much diet culture that we have to break through. And I just thought, you know what? I'm going to help one woman at a time because I figured it out, right? I figured it out. I hacked it. At 49 years old, I'm knocking on 50's door this year. I'm a 75 baby, and I feel the best I've ever felt. I don't want to look like 25-year-old Kayla. 49-year-old Kayla looks way better. And the best part is I feel so good in my body. So I always say it's not how you look, it's how you feel about how you
Yeah.
look.
Right.
And you own that, and that's yours, right? You own that, and that's yours. So what I work with women is just a sustainable approach, and that is a one-to-one experience. It's not a diet, it's not a meal plan, it's not a cleanse. It's a one-to-one experience to create a lifestyle around, hey, you know what? How can we keep this going forever? Because what I remind my clients of is you don't arrive on the doorstep of wellness. You don't knock on the door and come in and sit on the couch and say, "Woof, glad that's over." Right? Like I tell my clients all the time, it's like brushing your teeth. You're not ever done brushing your teeth. It's part of who you are. It has got to become a thread of who you are and what you do, not in an obsessive way, but it has to be woven into your lifestyle. So it's not this merry-go-round, right? Where you're
Yeah.
all in. And then I had to be careful with that too, because I'm holding women
Yeah.
in this 90-day accountability group. And so I have to make sure that even in that process, we're not, being good soldiers, right? Because that's what I see too. I'm like, oh, hold on a second. Way too much restriction happening here. Go out to eat. Stop it. Right. And when you work with me, there's no restriction. And I think that that's the part that we have to rewrite for women. And I don't know, this midlife situation, Lynn, it's a real conundrum.
Yeah, yes,
I
it
mean,
is.
it's a real upset. And that's, again, I found my way through. And so I'm just so passionate about helping women find their way through. And that experience is so personal.
Yeah, that's so true. And I know I believe the same way you do about the sustainability of a healthy lifestyle because, and let's face it, even if we're living a healthy lifestyle, we all fall off the wagon from time to time.
Absolutely.
But when you're living in that knowledge of how you can live that lifestyle, it's easy to jump back on and get back to where you need to be. And I'd like to ask you today about because there are so many myths about weight gain in midlife.
Hmm.
What kind of myths do you think there are out there that you'd like to see crushed?
Well, um, that's a great question. I will say, I think the approach, I'm going to answer your question this way. I think that our approach when we get into midlife is broken. I think that we have to accept that it's a new battle, right? We can't use old weapons to fight a new battle. And if you're anything like me, I am a recovering, I will always be recovering, by the way. I'm a recovering cardio addict. Okay. Like it is what it is. It was burned into my brain that in order to burn calories, we must do cardio. And that dies really hard. If anybody who is listening to me can relate to that, I see you and I feel you, and you will probably feel that way for a very, very long time. So the, you have to, you don't have to. I would encourage you to step out of that super intense cardio and embrace weight training. I wouldn't say that this is a myth, but I think that there needs to be a real switch up in how we are approaching our fitness. Because the reality is this, what we did in our 20s and 30s, it worked for us because it only worked because we were younger and we were just juicy, just had hormones and just, again, youth is wasted on the young if we only knew, right?
Yeah.
So we created all of these patterns that were possibly detrimental, thinking that they worked, but it's only because we had youth on our side. So we would just, I can speak for myself, I would just beat myself up in the gym, beat myself up double days, sometimes triple workouts, and I would look the way that I wanted to look. And so I thought, well, that's the ticket. I would just eat less and move more, which would work in our younger years. That does not. So if you want to ask about a myth, that is a huge myth that women still believe is if I just eat less and do more, maybe I should stop spinning and I should start running. I mean, it's like they think if they just change the type of cardio, that they're going to all of a sudden their body's going to step to and they're going to get results. And the reality is that we have to step down from that really super intense cardio, embrace weight training, embrace rest days. Okay. So, I mean, like, I'm not speaking to everybody when I say that, but it's hard for me to rest. Like, I'm jumping on a plane to New York tomorrow morning. I'm like, oh, thank goodness I can rest. Because if I was in Santa Barbara, I would be moving my body. So the rest is, see, we're all a work in progress, right? The
Yes.
rest part is a big one for me. So just really working with women in midlife to rework. I hear it every single day. I don't know what's happening. I have belly fat now, and I'm doing all the same things I've been doing for the past 5 years. Now, we all tell ourselves stories. So whether that's 100% accurate, who knows, right? That's why I encourage my clients to track everything because what we track, we can change. Sometimes we make up things and we think we're doing things and we're not quite doing them the way that we are. But if that is a true statement, I'm like, well, yeah, because your body's not responding the same way because you're in different time of life. So it's really a reworking. And you know what I found? I have more time. I have more time. I'm not beating myself up in the gym. I'm doing 25, 30-minute weight training workouts 3 or 4 times a week, getting my steps in with my weighted vest. I'm like a midlife cliche. So yeah, so I just think that, having to rewrite that script for women and getting them into a pattern that's going to be more beneficial in midlife is important.
So I do know that you work with GLPs, and I
Mhm.
know these are a big thing at the moment. Every TV advertisement, it seems like
Totally.
totally about that. So, how do you look at the lifestyle, the nutrition, and the exercise when you're giving people GLP-1
Right.
therapy?
Yeah, absolutely. So GLPs are prescribed by physicians. So I don't actually do any kind of prescribing of GLPs. I had a very positive result from a GLP. They're extremely effective in perimenopause. They're extremely effective for obesity. I found them by accident. I had a client send me a podcast about GLPs in connection to dementia. I'm really curious about brain health. And so it grabbed my attention. Never did I ever think that I would utilize a GLP-1 in perimenopause for 15, 20 pounds. The reality is I was very, very stuck and I'm the girl who does the things. I've got the infrared sauna and the cold plunge. I don't drink alcohol. I prioritize protein. I wear an Oura ring to monitor my sleep. I mean, this girl does all the things, and I was really stuck. So I was curious, extremely skeptical to be clear, and sheepish, thinking I was going to use a GLP-1 as a crutch. That's what it felt like at the time. It felt like a bit of a cheat, even though I knew I was doing all of the things until I really educated myself. And I really pride myself on how much research that I do. I never jump into anything with the blinders on. I definitely did my research. But anyway, in this podcast, I'm listening to this physician, and she's literally telling my story about wearing a perimenopause sweater and belly fat out of nowhere and cellulite in the weirdest places. And I was thinking to myself, holy cow, this woman is literally telling my story. Am I even going to go there? I'm very transparent as somebody who's a visible expert in the industry. And I knew that if I was going there, I was going public with it because I wasn't going to be the trainer that was like, eat more protein and fiber and look like me. I think that that's rude. And I don't want to lead people off of a cliff. I lost 20 pounds. I feel the best I've ever felt. I've cycled off of them now. But the reality is that the poison's in the dosing and the poison's in the compliance. So to answer your question, it's not, listen, peptides are not for everyone. When I am speaking to women, they definitely know that I've utilized GLP-1 peptides because I'm visible and I'm transparent. So they have questions. Depends on who they are. If I'm taking somebody off the couch who's not in movement, who's not prioritizing protein, who's in and out of restaurants, who's drinking 2 glasses of wine a night, they are not a candidate for a GLP-1 peptide, maybe down the road, but they have a lot of lifestyle pieces they have to get in check before we can even consider talking to a physician. I have a team of experts in my team that help with all of this. But before we even open up that can of worms, I'm like, whoa, 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 wait a second. We need to actually go back to the drawing board and we need to create a sustainable lifestyle for you. If you're going to just look for monotherapy or a silver bullet, it does not exist. It does not exist. And a GLP-1 is just one little tiny tool in a very big toolbox. I liken it to instruments in an orchestra. There's a lot of instruments that are working, and we can't just do one specific thing that's going to fix everything. And to be honest, we all go there, even me. When I was back and I was struggling, I realized, like, oh, shoot, I should probably start learning about hormone replacement therapy. I was afraid of it. I was afraid of it because I wasn't educated. Women's Health Initiative, I couldn't even have said Women's Health Initiative. I just had in my brain somewhere, it seeped in that I was going to get breast cancer if I even entertained hormones. I just didn't know. So again, I had to go down that rabbit hole. And let me be honest here. I had my fingers crossed that I was going to go on some estrogen and progesterone and drop 15 pounds. Now that may help some women. Again, our journeys are all personal. It did not touch the weight gain for me. So even a leader in the industry is over here like, please let this work. Please. But the reality is that there's not just one thing. We've got to do all the things. And that tends to be not great news for people because we want to take the shortcut.
Right.
And your health is just too important. Like, stop trying to look for the easy way out. Just stop. It's like it's worth it to focus on it. It's all you have. You have one body, you have one shot. And to not feel great in your body is a real bummer. And I see it all day long. So anyway, they were amazing for me. They're not for everybody. And the compliance part and the dosing part of what we're doing is really, really important. And I lean hard on my team of physicians who are amazing to do all correct dosing for my clients. And it's been gangbusters.
Mm.
Again, it's not for everybody.
Right.
Yeah.
So, in closing, how would you encourage a woman to begin to cultivate that sustainable, balanced relationship with food, exercise, and even their own bodies? Because at that point, a lot of women don't even know their own body.
Mhm. Well, it can feel foreign, right? When your body
Yeah.
is changing, it feels a bit, if I can speak from my own experience, it feels a bit out of control.
Hmm.
And to look in the mirror and to not recognize yourself is a pretty desperate way to feel. So for someone who's just starting out, which by the way, it's never too late, right? For someone who's just starting out, I just really encourage movement. Just start tracking your steps. Start really, really simple. And if that feels too overwhelming, then start your day with 5 minutes of movement. Maybe you do some squats, maybe you do some crunches. You could do them on literally, I could do that for 5 minutes while my espresso was brewing, right? Do something. Okay. And then I would say the second thing from a nutritional perspective, because we can't work out our way there, it's not a thing, is just start tracking protein and fiber. Don't even worry about taking anything out. Just start tracking protein and fiber. I mean, the research tells us we need a gram of protein per pound of ideal body weight. For somebody who wants to be 140, 150 pounds, that can feel very overwhelming to be intaking 150 grams of protein when you're not even paying attention. So I tell women start with 70 to 90 grams of protein. Just start somewhere. Start with 60 grams of protein. Start somewhere. Just start tracking. And when we start uptaking our protein, our fiber should uptick as well. Okay. And so 25 grams of fiber that's where we shoot. And so literally you're looking at complex carbohydrates. Stop being afraid of carbohydrates. Be afraid of processed foods, not of complex carbohydrates. We need them. And pay attention to how much you're eating out of a package. I come from a very whole food approach, single ingredient foods, foods that come out of the ground. It's a long shot in the States. So you got to do the best that you can. I really try to utilize, I don't go to Starbucks, so I'm not buying
Yeah.
$7 coffee. So
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
mind spending $12 on a dozen eggs. That's what I spend. I spend $12. I go to a place, it's basically like a farmer's market, but it's always open. I spend $12. I spend $1 an egg and I
Yeah.
don't care. I'll cut back on something else, but I do not. I tell people all the time, like, save money elsewhere. Do not skimp on what you're putting inside of your body. And, fruits and vegetables. So just really coming from a whole food approach instead of the thought process of taking something out. I think that when we start to feel like we have to remove things, that restriction kind of slides
Yes.
back in. So instead of
Yes.
looking at restriction, just look at adding things in. So again, if you can get some steps in, amazing. If that feels overwhelming, start your day with 5 minutes of movement in your bedroom. Get up, just move your body. If you can get outside, even better. But if not, 5 minutes of movement and try to start to pay attention to the protein and fiber intake. Little tiny, tiny changes will compound over time to big change. You just have to start somewhere.
Yeah, that's true. So I think that you have a kind of free gift for our audience.
Yes, I would love, well, I have 45-minute consultation. In that time, what I would love to do, normally my calls are 20 minutes. So in that time, I love to give people tips about where to get started. So kind of what we just talked about, but I apply it more to their lifestyle and because we're all different, right? So I talked to 4 different people yesterday, all in different states, which was really fun, with 4 completely different lives, all in perimenopause, probably a 15 age gap swing, completely different recommendations I would do with those 4 women. So it's really about doing something that's individualized, which is what makes my program so unique, is it's an individual plan for each person.
It's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
And where is the best place for people to find you?
Yeah. So KaylaJohnsonFitness.com or on Instagram, Kayla Johnson Fitness.
Awesome. I'll put all of that in the show notes for
Okay, great.
you. And I so appreciate you being here with me today and talking about things that are just so dear to my heart as well. I
Oh,
appreciate it.
absolutely. Thank you for having me. It was an honor to be here. Thank you.
Thanks. You have been listening to the Living Life Naturally podcast, where we're on a mission to inform, inspire, and encourage women to live their best life confidently, joyfully, and freely from what's been holding them back. For show notes and free resources, visit holistic-healthandwellness.com. And I'd be delighted if you'd follow us on socials to connect further. If you enjoyed this show, why not share it with your friends? If you found good value, chances are they will too. And of course, a 5-star review on iTunes is always greatly appreciated, as much as I appreciate you listening. So until next time, live life naturally and joyfully.